A recent Supreme Court decision has really shaken things up for immigration enforcement, especially in the Los Angeles area. It's kicking off a huge debate about the Constitution and what this means for millions of people on the ground. Okay, let's dive into this.
And these words right here, they're from Justice Sotomayor's dissent in the case. And wow, they just cut right to the heart of what's truly at stake.
So to get the full picture, here's what we're going to cover. We'll look at what the court actually decided, get into the core of the legal debate, see what this all means for communities, and then we'll walk through a playbook for how to prepare.
All right, so let's start with the decision itself. What exactly did the Supreme Court do here?
Okay, so here's the deal. A lower court had put some pretty specific restrictions in place. It basically told federal immigration agents in LA that they couldn't stop people based on a certain mix of factors. Well, the Supreme Court just hit the pause button on those restrictions, at least for now.
So what does this pause really mean on the street? It means that some very specific factors are back on the table for agents. Things like someone's apparent race or ethnicity, whether they speak Spanish, if they're hanging out at a day laborer site, or even the kind of work they seem to do, like landscaping. All of that can now be part of the reason for a stop.
And this brings us right to the central legal fight. You know, this isn't just a simple policy disagreement. It's a fundamental clash over the Fourth Amendment, the part of the Constitution that's supposed to protect us all from unreasonable searches and seizures.
So you have two completely different views here. On one side, you've got Justice Kavanaugh. He's arguing that if you take all these factors together, especially in an area with a lot of immigration, it adds up to what the law calls reasonable suspicion. That's the bar you need to clear for a brief stop. But on the other side, Justice Sotomayor is saying, whoa, hold on. She argues those same factors are so broad that they describe a huge number of perfectly innocent people, which makes any stop based on them unconstitutional.
So Justice Kavanaugh's argument is really built on precedent. He's saying, look, our past decisions allow for this. The idea is that you look at the totality of the circumstances, where a bunch of individual factors, even if they're innocent on their own, can combine to create suspicion.
But Justice Sotomayor's counterpoint is all about the real-world impact. Her warning is that if you set the bar for suspicion so low that it sweeps in tons of law-abiding people, then that constitutional protection we all have, well, it starts to feel pretty meaningless.
And if that wasn't complicated enough, the whole debate also gets into this tricky legal question called standing. The court is basically asking, do the people who filed this lawsuit actually face a real and immediate threat of being stopped again? It's a key legal hurdle you have to clear just to bring a case like this.
Okay, so let's shift gears from the abstract legal arguments and talk about the tangible impact on the ground. What do these enforcement operations actually look and feel like for people?
Well, this number gives you a sense of the scale. In just the first month of Operation at Large, that's the series of raids that kicked off this whole lawsuit, there were almost 2,800 immigration-related arrests just in the LA area. And the tactics described in the court documents are, well, they're harrowing. We're talking about agents in masks with guns, sometimes military-style rifles, jumping out of cars, chasing and tackling people, seizing individuals like a tamale vendor without even asking a question, and even detaining U.S. citizens.
This quote from a U.S. citizen really captures the fear this creates. It's this feeling that you might have to prove your own citizenship at any given moment, just because of how you look or the language you happen to speak.
So, with this being the new reality, what can people actually do? This brings us to our final section, a kind of preparedness playbook.
For employers, preparation is everything. This means doing regular audits of your hiring paperwork, like the I-9 forms. It means having a designated rapid response team that knows exactly what to do if an agent shows up. Train them on how to check a warrant. And you know what? Run drills. It sounds like a lot, but it's like a fire drill. You want everyone to know the plan.
And the really critical part of that training is knowing the difference between warrants. A judicial warrant is signed by a judge, and it allows agents into private areas of your business. But an administrative warrant is just signed by ICE. It does not give them permission to enter private areas. Knowing that difference can change absolutely everything.
Now, for individuals, it's all about knowing your fundamental rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse a search if there's no warrant. You are allowed to ask questions like, am I free to leave? And you should always try to contact legal help as soon as you possibly can.
And here's a piece of advice that is super practical, but also kind of tells you everything you need to know about the situation. U.S. citizens aren't legally required to carry proof of their status, but having a passport, a real ID, or even just a photo of your birth certificate on your phone could be the one thing that prevents a long mistaken detention.
And all of this leaves us with the one massive question at the heart of this entire issue. How does a country balance enforcing its immigration laws with protecting the constitutional rights of every single person inside its borders, citizen or not? It's a tough question, and it's one this case forces every one of us to think about.